Here is that little game that you, my friends, required I play, choosing the top 20 designer fragrances in my collection.
To be completely honest, that was a bit of a challenge. At first, I wasn't sure I would get 10, to be honest. I have quite a few designer fragrances, and I do tend to like all of the perfumes that I buy. Okay, not all. A lot of the blind buys, it's kind of like hit and miss. I never know whether I will like them or not. But those that I keep in my collection and don't try to find a second home for, those I usually do like quite a bit. However, if we're really going down the rabbit hole of the best, I don't really have a lot of fragrances that I wouldn't consider to be easily or moderately easily replaceable. So I guess that's like, I'm gonna start with that confession. I actually don't really believe in the top X game because I think I would exhaust myself after 5 for sure. Yet I have a lot of perfumes. I have like 200 plus bottles. What does it mean? It means that I like smelling them. I like exploring different options. But I don't know how to explain it. Things are not really replacing my life. Like if I got robbed and I lost all of my perfumes, I would surely be sad and I would probably grieve, because those are like, I mean, you can't even resell them for what I bought them for, but you know, I know on my part, I invested thousands, probably over $12,000, if not more. But at the same time, so is a good computer, you know, like there are a lot of valuables, but I wouldn't be crying and like losing my sleep over a thing. It just wouldn't happen. Nor would I repurchase a lot of them. I think after trying something, after wearing it for a while, I'm more than happy to explore something else. So I don't really believe, quote unquote, in the concept of top 10 or top 20. I don't really record. I don't like to watch or record those videos, but I understand that they are always very valuable when in terms of consumption. A lot of people kind of fill their wish lists when they hear the same perfume pop up here and there, here and there, here and there. It really, and like if the notes are of interest to you, then you'll have way more reason to give it a go, because it seems like the large variety of people seems to enjoy that brand, it seems to enjoy that perfume. So with that purpose in mind, to help you kind of make purchasing decisions or rank your wish lists, I went down to a little corner that I have right there, where I have all of the shelves of the perfumes that I have, those that I surely like in my collection. I didn't include any new perfumes because I don't really have strong impressions of them yet. So maybe in a year or two, my selection could change. But as of now, out of the perfumes that are surely to keep, you know, all of these I keeps, and all of them I wore many times, I could find 15. I really didn't want to push it, because even that is a lot. Even that, as I sincerely told you, I'm not sure I would repurchase them, all of them, at once, the first thing, if I lost all of them. But out of all of the designer perfumes that I have, these 15 I can stand behind. They are unique in some way or another, and they're either compliment getters, or like I've been loving them for a decade or more, or they're super interesting, or they are very niche smelling for what they cost, or you know, like for one reason or another, they are the best in my current collection. And we're gonna start with the one that you already have seen in a couple of videos. This is Salvador Dali Laguna. This is Eau de Parfum. This is a matte mint green bottle. Mine is so old that it's kind of like chipping away the matte film. This is a very niche smelling perfume. This is in many ways mono-accord, so it it gives you the blast of everything you're gonna smell and then just slowly decays in intensity. So it's a very kind of like end of 90s style of blending when you get everything at once and then it just slowly dissipates. And it has very beautiful projection when it comes to hot weather. This is kind of salty, coconutty, almost minty with this very soothing Mediterranean spice. That's how I remember the Crimea soil to smell, like when it's so heated in the sun and the grass is completely burned, that the soil itself, the ground, gives you this poignant, very spicy, aromatic smell. Not many perfumes that can really compete with the originality of the packaging, the price, and just overall appeal of Laguna. The other one, let's get it out of the way because this is discontinued, very hard to find, very precious for me personally. This is Calèche Eau Délicate. This, in my view, has very little to do with the original Calèche. It's a very elegant, thinly weaved, light, non-sweet floral. To me, this is what like light-hearted elegance of Hermès is all about. I probably don't know of a light floral perfume that I would consider to be higher quality and yet still unique. Don't ask me how they did it, I don't know, but I got myself 2 bottles that I got. I think each of them was over $50 and I was very lucky to get those because these guys can easily run $300 on the secondary market. All right, another one that I just want to mention in passing and like kind of keep going because I probably told you about it, I don't know, dozens of times. This is Vivienne Westwood Anglomania. This is my last backup. I'm not ready to open it yet. It's discontinued. All Vivienne Westwood fragrances are discontinued. They're leaving the market. The kind of like the people are stashing up on their most favorite ones, and I would say probably the 2 that are truly collector worthy is Boudoir and Anglomania. Anglomania happens to be my signature fragrance from my 20s, and I recently, as I was using up the older bottle, I decided to kind of like wear it heavily and test my feelings. Is it just a nostalgia or do I still like the scent now in the current life? And luckily for me, I still love it. I still love it. I wear it with pleasure. Since then, I really lost like the concept of me in the bottle, or like my signature perfume really lost its appeal for me because I really enjoy variety, and I now no longer tie my identity with any particular smell or scent. But this has a lot of personal meaning in my life. And beside that point, this is a very high quality, punchy, powdery rose perfume and a beautiful, beautiful bottle design. So it's actually a really good fragrance, even if you're not me, you know, and you still want to enjoy something like that. So the next one that's looking right at me is Bottega Veneta Eau de Velours. I do prefer classical Bottega Veneta, or Veneta. What's the right way to say it? But I find that all of their flankers sit really close in the multi-dimensional olfactory space. This is a little bit more suede, a little bit more dusty than the original, but this is an iconic shipper. This is like a leather shipper that is one of the best on the market. If you want to get to know leathery fragrances, shipper fragrances, and you don't know where to start, the classic or any flanker of Bottega Veneta is a perfect way to go. They're just iconic, perfectly blended, very punchy yet elegant, and very well-rounded, it's not too bitter, it's not too patchouli, it's not too oak moss. There's nothing too much about it. It's about like a paragon of what a designer shipper should be in the modern times. The next one that I have here, Burberry Brit Rhythm. To me, it's a perfect everyday fragrance to the office. It's a little bit powdery and a little bit irisy with the lavender note at its heart. So it's both put together very appropriate, very politically correct, yet it has a little bit of that charm, kind of like this charm of a understated flirtation, which is very Burberry. I love it. To me, it's a beautiful representation of the brand identity. If you like kind of the imagery that you get from Burberry as a brand, this is one of the fragrances that gets it to the T. And again, it's just light, non-offensive, not too sweet, not too floral. It's both soothing, refreshing, and it just makes you feel very put together and ready to, to get shit done. This one is kind of harder to find in the States, and a bottle can easily go for $100, but it's fairly accessible in Europe. Yves Saint Laurent Elle. Oddly enough, I don't really see much of buzz about it. Meanwhile, it's one of those incredibly intoxicating perfumes, very much for me in the line of Poison Dior, but much more wearable. And I found it through browsing profiles of Fragrantica users who had Anglomania as their signature fragrance. So if you like Anglomania, you might really like, and it's true for me, Elle by Yves Saint Laurent. If you like Elle by Yves Saint Laurent, you probably will like Anglomania. Elle by Yves Saint Laurent is this very dreamy, kind of like dark black orchid rose kind of scent. It's not too oily, it doesn't go that kind of heavy musky mushroom or like wet soil kind of note as Black Orchid does by Tom Ford. It actually stays right there with this slightly puffed up with powder sumptuous rose scent. Beautiful, not too gourmand and not too heavy at the same time. So it's an incredibly tasteful perfume. You know what? I'll give you another comparison. If you do enjoy Ali Saab Essence No. 1 Rose, though that's a slightly different rose, if you do enjoy Tiziani Terenzi Porpora, which is a way more expensive version of a dark sumptuous rose, Elle by Yves Saint Laurent kind of lives in the same vicinity, if you wish, but comparatively to Tiziana Terenzi is way more affordable. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. The next one, also mentioned before quite a few times, should be the pride of anyone who was born in the United States, American made. This is Elizabeth and James Nirvana Bourbon. And the kind of vanilla that is here is it's almost like drinking old-fashioned, smoking a cigar in an old leathery wooden chair, and yet just drowning in some sumptuous vanilla smoky sweetness. It's kind of like woody vanilla, but it does smell of bourbon. And you know why? Because it's basically a whiskey that's been aged in oak barrel. So those of you who don't have a lot of experience with bourbon as a drink or like bourbon-based cocktails might mostly decompose this as very dark, rich vanilla, ambery kind of scent with a prominent oak note. But if you, like me, adore kind of dark, stormy cocktails, this is like 5 cocktails in one bottle. I absolutely adore it. I love it. It's a beautiful, beautiful nighttime scent. The next one is going to be Narciso Rodriguez in general. Pick your flanker. All of them are 50 Shades of Good. Narciso Rodriguez is infamous for a very unique, dark, fleshy, noir kind of musks. Not to be dissimilar with Tom Ford's, to be honest, but for much of more affordable price. If you're familiar with the classic in the pink bottle, that's excellent. I just brought here the one that I want to remind you of because it's very cheap online. This is a Narciso by Narciso Rodriguez Eau de Toilette, which is basically like a black cube. As far as I know, this is like the cheapest Narciso Rodriguez you can buy online, and to me this is just slightly more refreshing and cheery version of a classic Narciso Rodriguez. I adore it, I love it. I can take any Narciso, like apply 3 sprays and feel like a sultry queen of the night. They're amazing, absolutely amazing musks on the designer market, to be unparalleled by anyone but maybe Tom Ford, which you know costs how many $100s? Yeah, exactly. Another well-forgotten classic that could easily come in a collection of Raja Parfums. That's probably the closest comparison I can make. A super sumptuous yellow flower bouquet. This is Lancôme Poème. A lot of people complain that since it's been reformulated, it's lost a lot of its richness and appeal. Maybe, but it's still one of these beast mode, sweet, royal, almost like on the verge of smothering type of sweet florals. I wear it with 1 spray and it lasts fair 6 hours on me. It kind of, again, depends how intense do you like your perfumes, how much can you withstand when it comes to the movement and the power of a perfume. To me, the Poème by Lancôme is at its best when it's worn very sparingly, because then you can feel the whole bouquet and you're not overwhelmed by those like dominatrix type of sweet, smothering, cloying, sweet floral notes. But when it's worn just with 1 or 2 sprays, it really has a lot of dimension to it. Love it. It's one of the rare examples when I can tolerate a beast mode powerhouse of floral. From very opposite spectrum, also powerful but very clean, sharp, almost piercing floral, and this is Cartier Baiser Volé. Hope I'm at least in the ballpark with the pronunciation. According to many people, I mean, there are a few arguments whether this is the best, but it's definitely in the top 3 designer fragrances that have beautiful, clean, non-offensive, non-headache inducing white lily scents, because this lily is very watery and green. It's just so, it's like a butterfly. It just immediately flies away from you, has great sillage and projection, yet always remains very piercingly sharp, light and clean. So Baiser Volé is definitely up there when it comes to finding a super elegant, clean, appropriate lily based scent. There are not many around that can deliver white lilies with that type of accuracy and respect. Next one is Kenzo Jungle Le Femme. I have been kind of like a shark making rounds around the jungle one for years now, because this is another powerhouse type of fragrance. Even though it has also been reformulated, I don't care. It's still such a beast mode type of perfume. This is all spices of the world shoved into a super duper concentrate here. If you like Opium by Yves Saint Laurent, if you like Samsara by Guerlain, if you like spicy fragrances in general, Kenzo Jungle is, man, it's something else. It's surely, I'm afraid that the whole room will smell of it after one spray and I won't be able to continue, but I'll do it. It's just such mesmerizing, shocking concoction of spices. There's so much in it, so much pepper, so much sweet spices, sharp spices, hot spices, this, that, cardamom, and whatnot. It's almost, it does deliver a shock to my system every time I wear it, so I'm very, very sparing with it. One spray at the very most. Considering that I think this is a newer version, it still lasts for a week. For a week on clothing. It's crazy. It's absolutely bonkers. This is the kind of perfume you apply once and you're good to go for, I think, 3 days probably. Okay, all right. The next one is a sweet, dark, woody gourmand for those who can't really wear dark, smoky, woody gourmands. This is Oscar de la Renta Midnight Amber. Basically a twin of Elizabeth Arden Fifth Avenue Royale, which is like a black rectangular bottle. They are very close, but Oscar de la Renta Midnight Amber is just a tad more boozy. And for me, that really settles the dispute. I have both. I have Elizabeth Arden Fifth Avenue Royale and I have Oscar de la Renta Midnight Amber. And I love them both. I find that Elizabeth Arden one is a little bit more floral in its base. Therefore, it's just a little bit more bland in the later stages of the dry down. Midnight Amber by Oscar de la Renta has such a smoked woody notes at its very core that I love smelling it on my skin even 4 or 5 hours after I applied it. This is basically if you like rose oud type of fragrances but you can't really wear them, you're afraid of oud, maybe you're not a big fan of how oily and sour rose scents can be, but you want to play with that idea and you want to at least explore it, this is the way to go. It's actually, I dare say, it's a daytime wearable rose oud fragrance. This is oud fragrance without oud. It's incredibly well balanced, yummy, dark, rich, and cheap. So if you don't want to go all the way toward hyper expensive niche or like certain Tom Fords, that does the trick. The next one, I could not mention at least one Lalique fragrance because you get such good quality of blend for so little money that all other designer brands just they fall pale in comparison. So Lalique is an infamous glassmaker. They still are making a lot of artful glass and they're making a lot of limited edition bottles for themselves and even more so for majority of the like high-end brands, at least the historic ones such as Guerlain and I think some others. But they also have their own fragrance line. So here we have Le Parfum by Lalique, which is this kind of cube. Mine already got darker, but because it has a lot of vanilla in it. What makes this a special perfume out of all of the Lalique fragrances that I could show you is that this constantly gets compliments. I don't think even I love it as much as other people love it on me. This is sweet vanilla, very well rounded with a little bit of tonka bean, a little bit pink pepper, you know, this like classic combination of sweet notes that are not ethyl maltol, that are not La Vie Belle or Poison Girl kind of sweetness. It's not liquid sugar, it's not liquid caramel, it's not cotton candy. This is the vanilla tonka bean, slightly peppery kind of sweetness, rounded, very elegant type of sweetness. Yet in some ways it would be forgettable if not for the bay leaf motif in there. Some people like it, some people don't. I don't really have anything pro or against bay leaf. It's a spice. You know, like, I don't have any preconceived notion. But what surprises me every time I wear it, every single time people compliment me on my smell. I guess it's very accessible and yet memorable enough. And that way, it's not special, but it's a crowd pleaser. This brand and this fragrance are probably going to be the most interest for those of you who travel or live in Europe, because this is José Eisenberg, and the fragrance that I have here is Love Affair. If I could, I probably would get them all, because they cost, it depends like where you get them, but like on really great discounts you can get them for 30 bucks a bottle. And their main line, they also have exclusive line, like a more like high-end, but even their main line shows impeccable approach to quality. Their fragrances are never obnoxious, they are never too syrupy, not too cloying. It seems like they're not trying to chase these kind of like the lowest common denominator when it comes to fragrances, and we know by now that the lowest common denominator is what? The smell of cotton candy. All of those super sugary sweet, flat, synthetic notes that can be found in shampoos and laundry detergents, and by now, and that's what made them popular and brought them to main perfumes, because a lot of conservative women who don't really know what to wear or not really well versed in the olfactory menu, they just want to smell clean and they want to smell nice. And usually what people assume by that is the synthetic odorants that are added into the laundry detergents. So Eisenberg doesn't do that kind of shit. No, they don't. Their perfumes in their main line are very affordable, very easy. They're easy on the nose. You don't have to study it with a magnifying glass. You don't have to learn 1,000 French words to understand what they're trying to do. You see, like, they're very accessible without being boring, and they are very complimentary without being cliche. It's a hard strategy to execute, and I salute them for doing it just perfectly. 10 out of 10. The price, the packaging is simple and elegant, and the composition of their perfumes is interesting, affordable, lovely. So the one that I have here is Love Affair. I already finished I think like 12 milliliter decant, like a travel spray that I had, and this is the rest of my bottle. Again, I don't know for what reason, but they don't have any distribution in the United States, but they're fairly accessible and they don't cost that much in Europe. Love it. Absolutely love it. If you can put your hands on any of those fragrances, I don't think there will be a lot of disappointments for you there. And the last one is Comptoir Sud Pacifique Rum and Tobacco. Used to be really hard to find, but I think now it's fairly accessible in a lot of different places. I must say, Comptoir Sud Pacifique, they started their journey, their like career in the world of fragrances by doing the most edible, gourmand, vanillian kind of fragrances. They were very edible gourmands. Easy to comprehend, not very sophisticated, kind of like they really rode that edible trend. But then it seemed that they started diversifying. I guess that's only a matter of survival, that you need to grow beyond your first hits either way. So this is definitely a hit from them, because this is not this cliche vanilla that I'm so used to smell from what they create, but rather beautifully blanketed cardamom and some kind of like dark rum spice notes. They say that's rum and tobacco. Probably there is something of a tobacco in it, but I would rather say it's kind of this, when somebody smokes aromatic tobacco like a hookah in the room, maybe something like that. It's still very gourmand in its essence. Some leather scents or tobacco scents can be very virile or even tough or austere. This is such a soothing, comforting blanket of spices and kind of rum, tobacco, cardamom. Everything is so softly milled and it's like an edible dessert in a bottle. Love it. I already been working through the travel spray that I had, and as soon as I saw it on fragrancenet.com, I snatched myself a bottle. Alright, so these are my top 15. I also have a lot of designer fragrances that I like, and some of them I like for this reason or that reason, but if you ask me to pick the top of the top, something that's truly unique by some category, be it the most complimented, the most unique and authentic, or the most wearable out of its group, or the most iconic, and cult and historic, or a very unusual and wearable execution of a hard-to-wear note. Here is what I have. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know what would you consider to be, I guess 15, that's a lot. Let's do top 3. Tell me, what are your top 3 or 5, whatever you wish, designer fragrances? I would love to hear what you have to say, because I'm also working on my wish lists, ranking and composing what I would like to try. I would love to know what you love and especially why. Please subscribe if you haven't yet. Please share my video with other perfume lovers in your life if you think they'll enjoy my content. Thank you so much for your support and patronage, and I'll see you in the next video.